dar início à sessão de homenagens. A gente vai homenagear dois colegas nossos que faleceram recentemente, o Adilson Gonçalves e o Jairo Gonçalves. Apesar do sobrenome, eles não são parentes, né? O Adilson faleceu ano passado, né, em maio do ano passado, aos 84 anos, e o Jairo faleceu cerca de um mês atrás. Mas aí, então, eu vou coordenar a primeira parte da homenagem, né, a homenagem ao Adilson, e depois vou passar a palavra para o Vitor, que vai coordenar a segunda parte da homenagem ao Jairo. Tá? Bom, eu particularmente não tive muito contato direto com o Adilson, é claro, eu conheci várias vezes com ele e tal. E por isso que eu vou passar para três colegas nossos, tá? Para que eles possam falar um pouco mais. Tá? Eu só gostaria de mencionar uma coisa, quer dizer, a ideia da homenagem é menos falar sobre o trabalho técnico, matemático, e sim falar sobre a pessoa, né? Tanto do Adilson quanto no caso do Jairo. Tá? Mas eu gostaria só de enfatizar a importância do Adilson no crescimento ou, né, na fase inicial do estudo de álgebra nesse país, né? Como o César já mencionou na segunda-feira, ele junto com o Said Cid, foram os que introduziram a escola de álgebra, né? Foram eles que imaginaram, conceberam, sendo a escola de álgebra, e que a gente vê que é um grande sucesso atualmente, né? Então, isso é uma parte bastante importante da história deles. Tá? Bom, sem mais delongas, eu vou convidar o professor Noraí, o professor Daniel e o professor Toscano para sentar aqui na mesa. Noraí Roubo, da Universidade de Brasília, e o Daniel, do convite atualmente aqui no IME, né? Mas ele já foi do IME, já foi de São Carlos, agora ele volta, e o professor Toscano também do IME. Tá? Bom, eu convido então inicialmente o Noraí para falar.
Muito bem, bom dia, ou boa tarde. Né? Vou rememorar umas coisas que eu tenho aqui do Adilson. Bem, eu conheci o professor Adilson Gonçalves em janeiro de 1974, quando cheguei em Brasília para cursar um mestrado em matemática na Universidade de Brasília. E eu não tive muito contato acadêmico com o professor Adilson naquele primeiro semestre. Eu estava cursando disciplinas com outros docentes. E, por outro lado, o professor Adilson, juntamente com o professor Said Cid, estavam organizando a terceira dessas escolas de álgebra, que também ocorreria em Brasília em julho daquele ano. Mas, nos semestres seguintes, nos períodos seguintes, pude ter vários contatos acadêmicos com o Adilson. Os colegas que me antecederam sempre o elogiavam como um excelente professor e muito amigo dos alunos. E, de fato, na sequência, eu pude tomar disciplinas de representação de grupos com o professor Adilson e também álgebra geral, e realmente pude confirmar essas qualidades do professor Adilson Gonçalves como professor e amigo dos alunos. E, de fato, ele tinha assim, uma facilidade muito grande de se aproximar das pessoas, de conversar com os alunos. Do lado social, ele sempre incentivava um joguinho de futebol no campinho chamado de Colina. Na Universidade de Brasília existe uma área que é chamada de Colina, onde tem residências de professores e servidores, e o Adilson residia, então, naquela época, naquele local, e ao lado tinha lá um campinho de futebol que era chamado Campinho da Colina. E lá nós fazíamos aos sábados à tarde, como se diz, uma pelada, né? Um joguinho de futebol, e as esposas, as namoradas, as meninas do departamento também apareciam lá para a torcida, e depois do futebol tinha lá uma cervejinha merecida, né? Então o Adilson era muito sociável e incentivava essas atividades em conjunto. Não só isso, o Adilson tinha vários amigos do Rio que eram músicos. E quando um desses estava em Brasília, ele convidava para o seu apartamento e chamava os alunos, né, para uma happy hour dançante. E lá ficávamos até meia-noite ou mais, né, aproveitando os bons momentos da vida de estudantes que o Adilson nos proporcionava. Então, ela realmente era uma pessoa muito amável, muito agradável. Infelizmente, ele, por razões pessoais, ele teve que se afastar de Brasília em meados de 1975, se não me engano, e passou um período na UFRJ como professor visitante, com apoio da FINEP, à época, a financiadora de estudo de projeto, e posteriormente transferiu para a Universidade Federal de Pernambuco, e depois, então, para a UFRJ, né, novamente. Mas essa história vocês podem contar, né, Daniel? Muito bem, eu queria transcrever, claro que o Adilson, do ponto de vista acadêmico, também foi sempre muito envolvido, né? Eu digo a ele e ao professor César Polcino, né, a responsabilidade por parte da minha carreira acadêmica. Eles participaram da minha defesa de tese, da banca de concurso para professor titular. Então, tem assim, tanto o professor Adilson Gonçalves quanto o professor César Polcino Mires, né, responsáveis por boa parte da minha carreira. E, claro, pelo incentivo também. Eu vou ler um pouquinho, se me permitem, o que o professor Said escreveu a meu pedido para a gente comunicar aqui nessa escola. Então, a seguir transcrevo a palavra do professor Said Cid. Minha vida com o Adilson é um espaço cheio de lembranças, de amizade e inovação acadêmica. Conheci o Adilson pela primeira vez logo no início do meu estágio de pós-doutorado na Universidade de Chicago, em 1970, depois de ter passado uma temporada de 2 anos na Venezuela. Falaram com o professor Said. O encontro foi precisamente no campo atlético da universidade, em frente à nossa moradia. Uma turma de alunos brasileiros estavam jogando futebol. Ele, o Adilson, junto com os outros, estavam na fase final de seus doutorados. Adilson era o mais experiente e mais sociável da turma. Aliás, ele, como me foi dito, havia jogado semi-profissionalmente no Rio, no Clube do Bangu. Isso é uma coisa comum, conhecido, né? A ligação acadêmica, por sorte, foi que o Adilson era aluno do professor George Gloverman, pesquisador de renome em teoria dos grupos, que foi justamente o meu orientador do estágio de pós-doutorado. Passado um ano, eu estava casado, esperando um segundo filho, e sem nenhum trabalho definitivo à vista. Aí, novamente, por sorte, a turma de brasileiros estavam com malas prontas para voltar ao país, todos para a Universidade de Brasília. O Adilson me perguntou se eu tinha interesse em me juntar a eles em criar uma nova pós-graduação em matemática naquela universidade, aliás, no Brasil. Eu não podia recusar o convite tão atraente, disse Said. O resto da história O resto é uma história de muitos anos de colaboração positiva, evidenciada pela existência dessa 27ª Escola de Álgebra. Bem, essas são algumas das muitas lembranças que eu tenho do Adilson, e ele sempre permanecerá na nossa memória com saudade. Muito obrigado.
Boa tarde a todos. Eu pensei em falar em português, mas eu vou misturar um pouco de português com inglês, porque eu vejo tantos amigos aqui. I met Adilson for the first time in Rio de Janeiro at the Federal University in Rio. That was 1977. He was a wonderful teacher. The very first course I took in algebra was with him, and it was beautiful. It was actually a preparation for the book, for the introduction to algebra, that famous book. And I took many courses with him, and I remember one of them was a course on 5 groups, and I remember very clearly something that struck me at the time. Eu fui muito impressionado na época. That he knew, so I'm so old, eu sou tão velho, que naquela época o teorema de classificação dos grupos simples finitos, ele já tinha sido anunciado, mas havia dúvidas se ele estava certo. Isso ficou por um longo tempo. So the classification theorem of finite symbols was announced, but nobody really knew that if it was true or not. And then Adilson começou a mostrar uma série de grupos finitos. Ele tinha tudo na cabeça, impressionante. Ele tinha todos aqueles grupos de matrizes sobre corpos finitos na cabeça, os grupos simples. So he had in his head, he had by heart all those simple groups, all the series. Was for me, that was just a kid, a student. That was really a start. Uma outra coisa que eu queria falar para isso, ele é extremamente sociável, ele saía muito nas diversas escolas de aula, e tomava cerveja. Mas uma coisa que o Nari roubou a cena é que ele era realmente extremamente, ele era muito bom matemático e muito bom jogador de futebol. He was an excellent mathematician and also an excellent soccer player. As Nari told us, he used to play soccer professionally, or at least semi-professionally. Yes, in a soccer club in Rio called Bangu Athletic Club. I just looked at Google yesterday, today, that the Bangu Athletic Club still exists and still runs in the local championship in Rio, yes. And this is also interesting. What else? He was very important in my career as well. And I think I chose algebra because of him. I'm pretty sure. Eu acho que eu escolhi fazer álgebra por causa dele, por causa da influência dele. Ele passou naquela época apenas 2 anos no Rio de Janeiro. He was just from 76 to 78 in Rio. Then he went to Pernambuco, and then he came back to Rio, but at that time I was not there anymore. And so that's it. I think I will let
Daniel, Talvez você que trouxe as fotos,
Fui eu que trouxe as fotos.
talvez passando uma por uma, você pudesse falar um pouquinho delas. Ou...
Tá, eu combinei com o Toscano, que o Toscano vai falar e depois a gente vai mostrar as fotos, tá bom?
Não, só não.
Já estava passando.
Não, você vai falar também. Eu não pensei que ia aproveitar.
Não, deixa o Toscano falar, depois eu falo.
Perfeito.
Okay. But before we start, just a compliment to Adilson's career as a football player, soccer player. He was proud to say that his colleague at Bangu, one of his colleagues when he was a player in Bangu, was Ademir Daguia, who later became a very famous soccer player in Brazil. So he was, but then he decided he chose to mathematics instead of football. Yeah? Okay, but let me start making a historical remark that maybe even younger Brazilians may not be aware of this, and I think most foreigners are also not aware, that Brazil doesn't have a long tradition in academic research in at universities and research institutes. Even when you compare it with our neighbors in Spanish-speaking Latin America, it started rather late. Only in the 60s, the government, federal government, decided to start sending many Brazilian students to do PhD abroad, mostly in the US, but also Europe. And that's how academic tradition in Brazil started with the people who were sent in the 60s to study abroad. And Adilson Gonçalves was one of them. And then in the 70s, there was already enough people around to start creating the graduate schools, the postgraduate studies in math and science. And so Adilson was an important actor in this movement of institutionalizing graduate studies in Brazil. And he was not only that, but he was very much involved. I mean, he knew that so that this project could prosper. It was still very incipient. There were still very few people involved. Like nowadays, I see many very talented students in math and science who had a hard time finding space to their careers, to find jobs and positions. In the beginning, there was this decision to increase research science in science and mathematics in Brazil, and there was not enough qualified people around. And Adilson was very much involved in the task of attracting young people who had the talent and the will to do academic career. And he was so much involved with it that very late, when he was close to death, and he died. I visited his widow and his stepmother in Rio shortly after he died. And then Adriana, his stepdaughter, told me that when he was already very fragile, he was, I don't know if you're going to show pictures of him when he was very old and close to death, but he was really very fragile, but he kept saying, oh, it is important to give incentive and to attract young people and talented people to the career. Now that's not an issue anymore, because there are plenty of young and talented people in Brazil who want to do a career in science, but that was not the case in the 70s. And Adilson had very, and you can tell how important this was for him, because I just read his CV, the last version of his CV, and there is a section where he says that he coordinated the program of scientific initiation. That's undergraduate research in Brazil, that's how we call iniciação científica. So he coordinated the program of iniciação científica in Universidade Federal de Pernambuco. And I was one of the students. And so he gives the names of 9 students of that seminar that later did their PhD abroad, and because of his incentive, because he knew how to make people work together and attract people to a goal like that. And so he convinced his colleagues, who were advisors in the master's program, that was not still a PhD program at the time, that everybody had to go to the Seminário de Iniciação Científica. And so for us, young people, we felt so important that we have all those very bright people who had studied abroad, and they were listening to us and making questions, and that was really an incentive. And because the students would speak, and also the faculty was there to talk to the students. That was really, and also he was very, he liked partying, and so he even invited the students in this seminar, young people like 20 years old, to a party in his apartment in Boa Viagem. So at that time, a university professor could live at the beach in Recife, a nice apartment at the beach, and then he received us. There was a salão de festas at the level of the sea, so it was very pleasant to listen to the waves and the wind, and then talking to faculty and students at his apartment. He had this leadership, and so the names he quote here in his CV. So there is Collier, who is in Rio, in Universidade Federal de Rio de Janeiro. There is Rafael Lins and Jaelson Freire Castro, who are at the Department of Computer Science, and also in Recife, here and then 2 of them stayed up in the US, Sabarito and Paulo Celso, Purdue and Texas A&M, and Manuel Lemos, Antônio Carlos, Sérgio Santa Cruz are all now at the math department. So this 9 people he mentioned, all of us were attracted to do a career in math. By abuse, and we went abroad and came back, 7 of us. And so he left his mark. And also he was the head of the department for 2 years. And that was the most peaceful period of the math department, because there was always a tension between those who who did research and who did not research, and people of older tradition, and he managed to find ways of everybody felt valorized, the way he managed things and found rules, how to make everybody feel that they had their space in the department. So he was really a charismatic person. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Just one thing more. The algorithm was so important for him. There's a whole section of his CV. This is the last CV where he describes the beginning of the história de arte. Tem toda uma sessão, até bem grande, do último CD dele, onde ele descreve a criação da escola de álgebra, como isso evoluiu, né? E agora a gente vê essa escola de aula agora 250 pessoas, cientificamente maravilhosa e muito bem organizada, e tudo começou lá com ele e com sabe? Bom, esse aqui sou eu e o Arnaldo Garcia, eu me lembro aonde, esse é ele, acho que esse é o Glauberman, né? O Glauberman, né? Alguém sabe? É o Glauberman, né, César? E os outros dois, eu não sei quem são. Vocês sabem quem são esses?
É o André, o último aluno dele de doutorado.
Ah, André. E ela, você sabe?
Pode ser a mulher do André?
Então Adilson, André, professor André e o Glauberman. Não sei. Eu acho que é Brasília, né? Parece que Brasília, eu não sei quem é o que está com ele. Ele está lá de cá. Esse na casa dele, ele provavelmente trabalhando, né? Aquela mesinha ali. Também ele, não sei quem são. Ele está do lado de lá, tá vendo, né? Esse de novo eu, esse que está, essa é a meu lado, essa é a mulher dele, a Gilson, e os outros, acho que são pessoas, alunos de alunos, ali, né? Ali, né? E isso acho que provavelmente em alguma escola de aula, talvez, em Brasília, né? Hã?
Ana Cristina primeiro.
Ana Cristina, não tinha visto. Ana Cristina, Aline. Você sabe quem são aquele que está lá no fundo? E aí está ele de novo, também não sei com quem. E esse aí já bem mais velho, com o Collier. Foi tirado provavelmente da casa dele, com o Collier que todos vocês conhecem. Esse é o chato. Esse é o chato. Esse é o chatinho, do lado dele.
Chatinho.
Ou não? Acho que talvez. Não sabe. Vocês sabem, César, aquele que na rua? O do meio. Esse do meio. É o chatinho, né? É o chatinho. E hoje a gente não sabe.
Outro não me lembro.
Não, Israel não. É o chatinho.
Não, tá esquerda.
Não.
Ah, sim, parece que é o Rolando Pomareda. Me vejo Rolando Pomareda. In the center, Chatinho, and then others. Okay? Rolando Pomareda from Chile.
Chatinho they collaborated a lot, right? Adilson and this is, of course, Said, and the other one, I don't know. Você alguém sabe que é o terceiro?
Seu filho está aí.
O filho do Said.
Esse é que eles estavam esperando quando estavam em Chicago.
Tá. So this is Said's son.
Nice.
Is this him? Yeah.
Muito bem.
Ok.
Obrigado pelas memórias. Vamos falar alguma coisa a mais.
Posso contar a história para a criança?
Parece que o Doné tem alguma história que não pode ser contada aqui.
Não, mas eu acho que, não sei se, reforçando o que o Toscano também comentou, o Adilson teve uma atividade administrativa também bastante significativa para a sociedade brasileira de matemática.
He foi presidente brasileiro. He was the president of the Brazilian Mathematical Society.
No, I think.
While he was in Recife, he was the president. Yes, it's here. He was the president of the SBM.
Sim, ele ajudou a criar as secretarias regionais da SPM na época e teve uma atividade muito importante. E também, estando na UFRJ, ele foi cedido para a criação algo como Instituto de Matemática da Universidade Estadual Norte Fluminense. Ele ficou um período grande lá, criando o Instituto de Ciências Matemáticas. Inclusive, ele foi reitor pro tempore da Universidade Estadual do Norte Fluminense, até que foi eleito o primeiro reitor daquela universidade, cedido pela UFRJ, entre outros.
Muito obrigado. Bom, eu acho que...
I'm sorry. No, he was not the president of the SPN. He, when Aron was the president in the city, he was general secretary. And,
From 85
yeah,
to
I
87.
was wrong.
From
Yes.
85 to 87.
Okay. Yeah. When Aron Siemens was the president, I think Adilson was the
Ok. Tá, então, acho que todos nós conseguimos ter uma ideia muito boa aí da importância do Adilson aí na criação, em particular, da área de álgebra do país, né? Nós também incentivamos sempre o juventude a participar de pesquisas.
May I add something? I'm sorry. Also, he was a very good teacher. Yes, he taught me linear algebra, and even today, when I explain to a student what's the algorithm to build the Jordan form on matrix, I remember his explanations. He drew some pictures of the spaces and he was I remember his lectures when he still wanted to teach Jordan form.
E essa, como foi comentado aqui, né, tem um momento foi tivemos essa filosofia, né, no Brasil de se criar, de mandar os estudantes para o exterior para criar esse vínculo com os grupos. Muitos de nós aqui somos fruto dessa política, né? Eu acho que talvez pertença a uma das últimas gerações em que isso foi possível, e depois a CNPq falou de financiar o doutorado no exterior, etc. e tal, buscar outras coisas, mas era uma política meio que, poderia dizer, de política de Estado de algumas universidades, de mandar sistematicamente o pessoal que estava fazendo mestrado para o doutorado, né? Contratava e mandava para o doutorado no exterior e tal, e a gente, muitos de nós criamos esses vínculos aí, e isso vem lá de trás, né? Como o professor mencionou, a universidade brasileira é muito tardia em entrar em pesquisa, né? Nós somos, acho que o último ou penúltimo país latino-americano abriu uma universidade. Isso foi só na década de 30 que foi criado. Acho que só o Paraguai que criou a universidade depois do Brasil, né? Enquanto outros países tinham universidades já mais centenárias. Então, tem uma geração em que, aí no caso, a Adilson pertence, né, um pouco mais tardiamente, do que o começo da universidade, que incentivou muito a criação da pesquisa aqui no Brasil, a pós-graduação, etc. Eu vou passar a palavra para o Vitor, para homenagem ao Jairo, mas antes eu gostaria que a gente, uma salva de palmas para o Adilson, né?
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. In the next half hour, we will pay tribute to Jairo Gonçalves, a friend of many of us who are here today, and who passed away last month. I would like to thank his wife, daughter, and granddaughter who joined us today in this tribute and whose presence is an honor to us. Jairo was a professor in the Department of Mathematics here at USP and a distinguished member of the Brazilian algebra community. He was a dear friend and will be greatly missed. Our program is divided into 3 parts. First, we will hear Arnaldo Mano, one of his closest friends, talking on Jairo's life and career. Next, Javier Sanchez will make an impossible effort of squeezing in 15 minutes an overview of Jairo's many contributions to algebra. We shall end with a slide presentation of photographs of Jairo with his friends and family. So, Javier, please, if you please, if you could come and start.
To begin with, thank for the invitation. And it's a pleasure being able to talk about Jairo, even though circumstances are unfavorable to us. I will talk a little bit about Jairo, the man, and just a little bit about his career, since again, that's his family. That's where he was born. Was in a family of modest means, but at that time. He had to enter the public school system. When I say he had to enter, that's something that is relevant when you think of it nowadays. Nowadays in Brazil, the public school system is quite bad, but at that time, it was still quite good, and he was able to get a good education. And as most Brazilians at that time, he started his main philosophical, ideological commitment. Okay, he was serious, but not very religious, even in this condition. So there are many stories about Jairo's early days, but there is a very special one that deserves to be told. In 1964, there was a military coup in Brazil. It started a kind of authoritarian regime, and in 1968, it became a dictatorship. It was a coup within the coup. And there was a resistance movement. They were called terrorists by the government and freedom fighters by the others. Well, that's the usual thing. And Jairo got involved in some of these operations. Not a very serious involvement, but he got involved in that, in an operation as a spotter. Unfortunately, he wasn't very successful at that. He got caught, spent some time in jail, and that's bad. Okay. He was in his late teens. He was about to get into the university, but delayed entering the university, and it had later consequences too. But there is an upshot also, because after being in jail, he became for life an algebraic freedom fighter. Okay, so trying through free groups and free algebras. Well, after all, he got into the university, but that's part of his academic life, and I'll tell you about it later. Let's still to get personal. And I have an anecdote to tell you. Late 70s, I was studying abroad and came back in late 78 for a vacation. And Jairo, we were in contact by, at that time we used letters. I don't know, well, that seemed that we were writing paper and sent through the mail. There was no email at the time. But at that time, the Passman's treatise in group rings had just came into print, and Jairo asked me to buy it. At that time, buying such a book in Brazil cost an arm and a leg and took forever to arrive. So, okay, I brought the book for him, and we met in a bar. Okay, it was actually, as an aside, I think at that time, Jairo, I don't think Jairo would have ever dreamt of actually meeting Passman and working with him, doing research for so many years. Okay, but I brought him the book. Okay, so we are at the bar, we're talking, and then he tells me quite happily he had found a girl that he was quite interested in. And if we see the pictures, we see that they were made for each other. Okay? It's a perfect pair. Okay? It actually worked out. About 2 years later, they were married. And that marriage was a quite successful one and happy one, and lasted for the last for all their days, until now. It's a story also of coming from bad conditions. I mean, they weren't both Jairo and Rosa. They came from actually very modest backgrounds, and they both studied a lot and worked hard, and they kind of changed their, let's say, social and economic status. It's something that's quite commendable, very, very uncommon. Now, I told you this story, and they started a family quite quickly, and here are the kids, okay? Just let me tell you that the kids have grown up a little bit, so if you see them here, I think you will be hard-pressed to recognize them. Okay, but they're still there, and the place of the kids now has been taken off by the grandkids. And they have a full tribe. And here we have all associations, even Persil is embarking, but they were really happy. It's a happy moment. Okay, that's the family part. And let's talk a little bit about his academic life. Okay? He eventually got into USP, or got admitted into USP, and he finished, graduated at 74, and was immediately hired as an instructor. At that time, as was told just before, okay, at that time, there was a dearth of doctors, PhDs in mathematics. So, and there was a lot of work to be done. So they hired every good recent graduate to be an instructor, and that happened to Jairo. except that his previous adventures came to bite him in the back, and he was gently asked by the security forces to resign his position, or else, well, he did it. He resigned and found an engineering school in which they needed an instructor, and they weren't under this police vigilance. But he didn't stop studying. He continued. He got his master's degree, and later his PhD under the guidance of Cesar Pulsino, who also taught him judo so that he could flip back all the police that came after him. And meanwhile, in between, there was a softening in the police regime. So, 1980, he was hired. Okay, and now, after he was hired, he finished his PhD, and then he continued his career here at USP and rose to the ranks, became associate professor and full professor. He did about all sorts of things, about everything. Was coordinated teaching groups, and of course, his career, he has a career in algebra that you'll be hearing more about. Wrote about 60-something papers. One thing that he was quite instrumental is organizing several congresses and group strings and blueprints. There was just one that finished last week. And one of these congresses recognized his work, okay, just 5 years ago. Now, to finish this part, I just want to talk about one thing that I consider one of Jairo's strongest personal qualities. Okay? And it's quite interesting that probably everybody who worked with him know about it. His persistence, tenacity. He didn't let go. When he started working on something, it was, well, to death. He really did it. And one thing that, when I thought about it, okay, it was an interesting realization that it was not just a quality of him, but it was a value for him. It was a value, and everybody that got email from Jairo got, at the end, his signature, this quotation. I find it also interesting that it comes from the Talmud, which culturally has nothing to do, especially with Jairo, but it kind of saying, well, you have to go for it. Okay? And that was Jairo. Okay? That was what he was doing. And if you're in doubt, you can ask for him, his co-authors, and now I didn't coordinate with Peter about pictures, photos, and maybe we are going to have some overlap later. Okay, but let's have a look at some of those co-authors. Now, for those that don't know, well, everybody knows Cesar and Van Basten, Darshan, Sergo and Lichtman and Mazi. Okay, and let's see. And now we have Van Basten and Vitor and Here, he and Alexander Lichtman are cooking some turrets. And Mazi is having fluffy thoughts. And now, Leila and also Misha and some gleeful fellow I can't recognize. And Antonio with a full head of hair. And Angel and Cesar again, and well, some more, and Raul and Misha and Angel. And well, Miguel and Lucy were his co-authors, but they're still in the free picture, so that's okay. And here we are caught red-handed in this an explicit act of co-authoring. Okay? And just to finish, here we have a picture. Well, this photo is from that last GRGR, or that one that is 70th year. Well, last October we had the bad news that he got a tumor, and then, in spite of very good medical care and very loving care from his family and so on, he didn't make it, and he passed away, left us, and is missed.
Hi, hello. Well, thank you, Victor. Well, as Victor said at the beginning, I am going to talk about Jairo's scientific career. And as he said, it's impossible to talk about all his career in 15 minutes, so I will only give some glimpses of his work. So you have to know that there are much more about him in mathematics. Okay? So, but one of the things that should be clear from the beginning, okay, is that Jairo Gonçalves was an energetic and talented mathematician. This was said by Donald Passman, and mainly he had to research lines, one about division rings and the other one about group bundles. Just a look at his research, general look at his research. As Arnaldo said, he had at least 60 papers, in particular according to Central Black 66. And, well, he talked about his co-authors, so it is clear that he made serious mathematics with those co-authors. And he always published in very good journals. For example, he published papers in the Journal of Algebra, in the Proceedings of the AMS, in the Israel Journal of Mathematics, in the Journal of the London Mathematical Society, and many more, of course. And, well, about this general view of his career, what I find really impressive is that if you look at the mid-90s in 2020, that he published, on average, for 25 years, at least 2 papers every year on average. So that is somehow also what Arnaldo said, his persistence and his work every day. Okay? Also, according to the Massinet, he published even more, 79 papers. And, well, I've been told that his last paper with his master's student, Gabriel, has been accepted not long ago, so there will be at least 70, okay? And well, he got 465, at least 465 citations. Okay, the list of the authors are not already told us, okay? So I will, first of all, okay, before beginning this, I will give, okay, some glimpses of his works, and well, you will see that most of the things that I will talk about his work are from the last 15 years, okay? And there are some reasons for that. First of all, because this is what I know better about Jairo, that's for sure, a reason. The second is that I contacted some of his co-authors, and I said to them, please point something that you think it is good that I talk about Jairo, and most of them told me papers about the last 15 years. Okay, so it's not my fault entirely. Okay, and the third one is that his works during his first years, they were pioneering in his research lines. So that is unbearable. So that is something that cannot be measured. Okay, but during these last 15 years, his results, because the theory was more developed and so on, the results are more well-rounded. So that is also another reason why I chose that part of his career. Okay, so first of all, I would like to say an important result of the work with Ángel del Río and Osniel Broche. Well, there was a conjecture in group rings which says the following, that if you have a field and G is a group, if G is a periodic group and the units of Kg satisfy a group identity, then Kg satisfies a polynomial identity. Okay? This conjecture was proved in the general case by Liu, but then the work of Jairo, Ángel, and Osniel says that if the group of units satisfy a weaker condition, that is that if the units of Kg satisfy a Laurent polynomial condition, which is not satisfied by this algebra, is the free algebra generated by those two generators subjected to those relations, then the group ring satisfies a polynomial identity. Another line of research of Jairo was, as Arnaldo said there, he was always looking for free objects in division rings. Okay? And there is a conjecture of Alexander Litzman, which says the following. If D is a non-commutative division ring, then the multiplicative group D minus 0, okay, contains a free group of rank 2. This conjecture is still open, okay? And Jairo, early in his career, proved that for a large class of division rings, that is true. Okay? He proved that the Litzman conjecture is true whenever the division ring is finite dimensional. Okay? He proved even more. Okay? He proved this statement that if D is a division ring, finite dimensional over its center, and H is a subnormal subgroup of D, not contained in the center, then H contains a free subgroup of rank 2. Okay? Well, if you look at the paper, not even in the title appears this result. Okay? The paper was more oriented towards group rings. Okay, but in the middle, he proved this important result on the conjecture of Alexander. Also, as as Arnaldo said, in the, I would say, around the 90s, they began to work on all together, okay? And I will need first an observation that is the following. If you have a division ring, R a subring of D, and S any ring, well, it is easy to see that if the group of units of S contain a free group, and there exists a ring homomorphism from R to S, such that in R there exist invertible elements whose images are the elements that generate a free group, then D contains a free group into generators, because those R1 and R2 generate a free group. Okay? Well, this observation was very important. Okay? In the words of Arnaldo, Jairo proved in his thesis using this alternative that the conjecture calls for finite dimensional division rings. Okay, this was the result before. Then we took from there in two different directions. One trying to verify the conjecture for larger classes of division rings and looking at related commutativity questions. The other one, which is the one that I am going to talk more, is about finding explicit free pairs in sub-finite dimensional division rings. And, the technique is something that Jairo used during his whole career, is that, there are large classes of finite dimensional division rings that are described as a vector space with a specific basis, and a multiplication table for the basis segments. For some classes, like quaternion algebras, the usual, something more general, the usual quaternions, or some cross products. The table is very common. Then the objective that they pushed at this point with Masi Silvani was to describe free pairs that look nice inside bases. Okay, so summing up, okay, that ring S, you put some algebra of quaternions. They made a really hard and a really detailed study of how to find free objects, in free groups in those rings of quaternions. And then, of course, there was not easy. You had to find that ring R, that subring R of D, such that you have that homomorphism. Okay? Well, I know I have explained this, without many details, very general, because that is a bit involved, okay, but just to point out the importance of the result of these techniques that Jairo used during his whole career, is some words of Alexander Lichtman, who said that the following: I like all of Jairo's papers, but one of them became especially interesting for me. A paper in the Journal of Algebra where he, together with Arnaldo and Masi Silvani, proved a beautiful and important theorem of free subgroups in the division rings generated by residual intersection-free nilpotent groups. It is one of those papers where they developed that technique that I said before. Well, in the words of Alexander Lichtman, this was a remarkable theorem, and its proof was, that technique that I said before. Okay? Well, now I want to talk about some of his results. Well, one of his results with Jason Bell, and for that I need some definition, that is that of the skew polynomial rings. Okay? If you have a field, or in general a ring, but I will now specialize for fields. If you have a field, you have an automorphism of the field K, and you have a delta, which is a sigma derivation. It means that it satisfies that. Observe that if sigma is the identity, what you have is a usual derivation. Okay? Then you can construct a set, or which is a abelian group, is the usual polynomial ring, but now the coefficients do not commute with the variable. Okay, you have to have that condition. Okay, when you multiply x by a, the result is sigma of a x plus delta of a. Okay, this condition is necessary so that the ring that you will obtain is associated. Okay, well, it is well known that this skew polynomial ring is an Ore domain, so it has an Ore division ring of fractions. So it has one can construct a division ring from them. Okay, from this skew polynomial ring, which I denote with that kind of brackets. And one of the results that he proved with Jason Bell was that if we have a field, sigma automorphism of K, delta sigma derivation, they proved that if the Ore ring of fractions of the skew polynomial ring is not commutative, then D contains a free non-cyclic subgroup. And this result does not depend on the characteristic, does not depend on sigma, does not depend on delta. Whenever it is not commutative, you find a free non-cyclic group there. And Bell was very happy about this result. Okay? Bell said that this was a very satisfying project where I felt we had obtained a definitive result. And we relied heavily on Jairo's encyclopedic knowledge of the field to work out a viable approach to this question. Being able, and he also said about Jairo in general, being able to work with Jairo was one of the truly great experiences in my life. I believe Jairo also felt we had something special when we worked together. And I confirm that he was very happy with his work with Jason Bell. Well, he looked for free groups in division rings, but he also looked for free algebras in division rings. There is a conjecture of Makar-Limanov that says the following: D is finitely generated as a division ring, not as an algebra. Okay, so it's finitely generated using some product and inversion of elements. Okay, an infinite dimensional covariant center, then D contains a free C algebra in two generators. Okay, Jairo made a lot of work about this conjecture. Okay, he proved in many cases where it was true. Okay, the conjecture hasn't been proved yet, or disproved. Okay, it's not known. But I want to talk more about results, not on the conjecture, but related to the conjecture. Okay? The third one is result favorite of mine, of the ones of Jairo, because of its simplicity in its statement, and also in its proof. It's a paper of just like 3 pages or more, almost, and says the following: suppose that this is a division ring that satisfies Makar-Limanov conjecture. It was proved in many cases that Makar-Limanov conjecture was true, that D contains in fact non-commutative free group algebras. Okay, but then Jairo and Shirvani proved that that was not a coincidence. Okay, they proved that if you have a division ring with center Z, and if Z is uncountable and D contains a free Z algebra of rank 2, then D contains a Z free group algebra of rank 2. Okay, so this was one of the more important results to somehow pass from the Makar-Limanov conjecture to the following conjecture that says that if D is finitely generated and infinite dimensional over Z, then D contains a free Z subalgebra in two generators. Well, in the last part of his career, Jairo they liked very much the following problem, which are versions of the conjectures that I talked before for rings with involutions. No? So we have a field, a K algebra, a K linear map is a K evolution if those two things are satisfied, and an element is symmetric if it is invariant and evolution. So one natural question that Jairo asked was that if you have a division ring endowed with an evolution, does D contain free pairs generated by symmetric elements? Does D contain free non-commutative subalgebra freely generated by symmetric elements? And these are involutive versions of the conjectures by Lippmann and Makarlemanov. Okay, and one of the results that Donald Passman liked very much was one of the last results they proved together that says that if D is a division ring with a central field K of characteristic different from 2, and you have a K involution in D, and N is a normal subgroup of the multiplicative subgroup of D, then if G is a star stable non-abelian subgroup of N that is either torsion-free polycyclic bifinite but not abelian bifinite, or finite of order, then N contains a free pair, two elements that generate a non-commutative free group, which are symmetric. Okay? And well, Donald Passman said that this result was not only important because of the result, but because of the proof. They need to extend a theorem of George Bergman, and well, he thinks that that result is interesting in itself. And Donald Passman also said this about working with Jairo. Jairo's expertise always led the way in our joint work. He knew the next steps to consider, the expected outcome, and a rough approach to the proof. Well, and I want to talk also about this thing of division rings with involution, about a nice result, a very nice result of Vitor Ferreira and Erika Fornanori, which says that suppose you have a group and you have an involution on the group, that means a map that satisfies those two things, then that involution can be extended to a K involution of the group ring in the natural way. Then if KG is an Euler domain, then a star can be extended to a K involution of the Euler division ring of fractions. So we already have now a division ring with an involution. Then, for example, you take as a group the free nilpotent group of class 2 generated by two elements. That means the group that is placed, well, is very important in the theory of groups. Then the result that they prove is the following. So suppose that D is the division ring of the Euler division ring of fractions of the group algebra KG. Suppose the star is a K involution on D induced from an involution of D, any one of them. Okay? Then D contains a free K algebra of rank 2 freely generated by symmetric elements. Okay? Well, so somehow these are like the some important results in Jairo's career, and now I want to talk a bit more about other aspects of his career. Jairo had four, let's say, pure postdoc students. Okay, he had another postdoc, which was already a professor, that he came here to work with him. But Vitor Ferreira, Eduardo Tengan, Paula Murguer Veloso, you and me, okay, sorry. and me, we all made postdoc with Jairo. And well, they all had some words about Jairo, but I have seen all of them, and I agree with all of them, and the things that are going to be said could be interchanged because we all agree about that. For example, Vitor said that Jairo was one of the most enthusiastic researchers I have ever met, and without a doubt, he loved what he did. And proof of that is that, as far as I know, none of us, before knowing Jairo, we did not work in those things. It was after we met Jairo that we began to work in the search of the objects in division rings. Well, Jairo was always available to exchange ideas, answer questions, and, well, Eduardo and all were able to learn a lot from Jairo, who was always a very pleasant person and with a lot of energy. And, well, that's true. He was always, every week, we had at least a 2-hour meeting with Jairo to talk about how was the research going. Jairo's supervision helped me mature as a mathematician and summoned the courage to enter and pass my first concurso. And, well, position, okay? Well, that's also absolutely true, okay? Because when you made a postdoc with Jairo, it was usually a postdoc of at least 2 years, or with the possibility of at least 2 years. So that was a postdoc where you didn't have to think about what am I going to do next, whatever, and you just focus on research, and you work a lot. And also, he always encouraged his students about, well, a recurrent question of him was, when are you going to make a concurso? When are you going to apply for a position? And he was very supportive on that, okay? And well, I just want to end this talk somehow talking about our research group here at USP with Jairo. The group has some, like, in the last 15 years, Cesar Porcino, Jairo, of course, Dokuchaev, Vitor, Raul, and me. Jairo was very important for the group as it is, okay? Because, for example, Raul was a PhD student of Jairo. Dokuchaev, Vitor, and I, we just came here to make, invited by him. We liked very much, and we decided to stay. Okay, that's in part a great part because of Jairo. So somehow our Jairo was key in the research group here in Sao Paulo. Okay, so I would like to finish just saying a big thanks to Jairo, and thank you too for your attention.
Thank you.